This is our continued study of the Rasalila pastimes with appendix. We're now in the section coming toward the end, as we all have been studying throughout this whole venture. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advented in the mood of Srimati Radharani to teach how we can serve Radha and Krishna, especially through chanting the holy names. And he advented with some of his eternal associates. One of the main branches in that tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Rupa Goswami. So we're now studying the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. If you know the pastime, Lord Chaitanya spent time three times, with Srila Rupa Goswami, once in Ramakeli, once in Prayag, Allahabad, and again in Jagannath Puri, and explained to him what kind of information he wanted transmitted in books, also to revive the holy pastimes that Krishna had performed in Vrindavan, and to establish deity worship in Vrindavan. So he fulfilled all three of those instructions. Now we'll read the practice of bhakti in the unique flavor of the residents of Vrindavan from Srila Rupa Goswami's book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. You can see here, Srila Prabhupada, this is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu translated by Bhanu Swami. It's very similar to Prabhupada's books with the verses and the Sanskrit verses, the verses themselves in English, and then commentaries by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami. And we've also included Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion direct translations, which is similar to the way we did the Srimad Bhagavatam, where we had the BBT version of it, or the Krishna book version of it, and then Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary. So let us dive in. This is the Nectar of Devotion. Note, these lessons from Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, expand upon the concepts we studied in the conversations between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Chapter 8, focusing on these texts spoken by Srila Ramananda Roy. Texts 201 through 205. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very confidential. They cannot be understood through the mellows of servitude, fraternity, or parental affection. Actually, only the gopis have the right to appreciate these transcendental pastimes, and only from them can these pastimes be expanded. Without the gopis, these pastimes between Radha and Krishna cannot be nourished. Only by their cooperation are such pastimes broadcast. It is their business to taste the mellows. Without the help of the gopis, one cannot enter into these pastimes. Only one who worships the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis, following in their footsteps, can engage in the service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. Only then can one understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. There is no other procedure for understanding. And then texts 228 and 229, Ramananda Roy continued, therefore, one should accept the mood of the gopis in their service. In such a transcendental mood, one should always think of the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. After thinking of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, and after getting completely freed from material contamination, one is transferred to the spiritual world. There, the devotee attains an opportunity to serve Radha and Krishna as one of the gopis. So this next section of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes the next 3 lessons. I've chosen sections which expand on those points. So, Samapriya, can we have a new reader, please?
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to see everyone again. Hare Krishna, Tisha and Chetamayi. Very nice to see you guys. One thing I wanted to say also is that one would question, why is the mood of the gopis so essential to bringing one to the lotus feet of Krishna? So that would be complete selfless love. Only interest is Krishna's pleasure.
Well, doesn't Mother Yasoda have selfless love?
Selfless love, but yes, but this is the example that is being given. So in any of the different rasas, whatever rasa one is engaged in, that selfless love of the gopis has to be followed, or of Mother Yasoda. These are not ordinary personalities. Mother Yasoda, the gopis, Nanda Maharaj. These are even Krishna's friends. These are eternal Nitya Siddha. So their love in Braj is completely selfless. So
yes, but I chose these verses specifically, and this section of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu specifically, because it is focusing on the difference, not the difference, on the conjugal element of love between Radha and Krishna, and how the gopis assist in that. For example, one of the reasons that Radha Kund is so confidential is that none of the adults go near that area. It's just kind of a place that they never go. So the pastimes at Radha Kund that take place between Krishna and the gopis can be intimate without the parents' presence.
Right. Yeah.
So just to give that as an example, the parents and the older brother Balaram don't take part in the conjugal intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, but Radha and Krishna and the gopis do.
Right. My point was selfless love.
Okay.
If you want to get to the highest platform of loving Krishna and go back to Godhead in whatever rasa you are, of course, we're studying the conjugal mood here, but this selfless love has to be developed. That's in any rasa. That was my point.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on reading with Manvantara. Would you like to read Hare Krishna, Manvantara ji?
Hey, Haribol.
You're back in Alachua now?
Yes.
All right. Welcome back.
Home.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. The Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 2, Text 1 through 6. The 3 categories of devotional service, which Srila Rupa Goswami describes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service and practice, there are 2 different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Krishna has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotional service to some extent, even though it is not 100% perfectly performed. Whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stopped in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. Even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in a pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and be advanced in devotional service. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste For understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is easier than those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative process. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to their general opinion, an argument According to their general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived from his own arguments and decisions. Then another person who may be a greater logician, will nullify those conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of arguments will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow the footsteps of the authorities.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what about previous lives? What about engaging in devotional service in this life because there was some engagement in previous lives? Can you say something about that?
It's actually comforting to know that that actually happens, and coming to appreciate it. But it kind of makes sense with begetting the mercy of a devotee, one way or the other. You know, like the mercy of your parents, the mercy of a friend, the mercy of some past, spirit soul, and or actually performing devotional service and not even realizing it, gives you another opportunity to pick it up.
Oh,
It's actually
that's
very
interesting.
important. Yeah.
Not realizing it even. That's kind of far out. So that this is a really important point that we should know. If we're engaging in devotional service in this life, it is an indication that we have done this before. And of course, why does it last? Who can say why it lasts from one life to another? Anyone? Madan, you got the answer? Why does it last from
Well,
one
I
life?
was going to ask the question, but no loss or diminution when one performs devotional service.
Why is that? It is what?
It's
Begins
the
with an E.
eternal bank account that,
It's eternal. It's eternal. Very good.
yeah.
Go
But
on, Madan. You have a question?
yeah, I had a question on, it says argument, but I was also, what's the difference between argument and questions? Because everybody, when they first come, they're going to ask many questions. So that and they often hear an answer. Their faith develops a lot of times according to their questions. The whole
Yeah,
Bhagavatam is questions.
good. Big difference. Patti, you want to answer that? Big difference.
Well, sounds like you have some realization of it. Go ahead, and then I'll comment.
I was, come on, you have to say. What's the difference between an argument and
And a question.
a question? First of all, the way it's presented.
Well,
Someone-
just obviously the way you just voiced it, you could hear it in your voice. An argument, a person already has an opinion, and they're not accepting what's been stated, and they're not really inquiring with a submissive attitude to further understand it. They're rather presenting their own point of view to try and defeat what's being stated in general. But the point that's being made in this section, let me bring it back up again, is not that. It's really, it has nothing to do with that. What he's saying is that the process of accepting the teachings of the authorities is the way to accept this path, rather than one's own development or intelligence.
Good.
According to their opinion, a person may be governed by a certain conviction derived by his own arguments and decisions. Then another person who's a greater logician will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. It can just go on and on and on. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities, linking that with the previous paragraph. It indicates that we've performed these activities before in our previous life, and for one reason or another didn't mature to the point where we perfected it. So those persons who are interested in these topics, if you're here if you're studying these, if you're interested in them, if you have a taste for them, that's an indication that the soul is actually awakening and looking for those things. And Krishna is making arrangement for you to come in contact with other people that are also like-minded. Nanda?
Hare Krishna. I think it's also appropriate at this point to mention something that we already understand too, because the first paragraph was saying that it's a continuation from previous lives. In another place, and I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where, but it's in Bhakti, it's in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It explains of the three types of devotees, Kanishtam, Madhyam, and Uttam. The Uttama Adhikari has the potency to inject spiritual life into the heart of the listener through his purity. So most, like Srila Prabhupada, most of us were not searching for spiritual life, or at least myself wasn't, but coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and hearing that explanation in Nectar of Devotion, how he injects it into, injection is something, like you think the needle and the intravenous shot, it's not like you're taking it voluntarily, but the nurse or the doctor comes and sticks it in your arm and you're getting the result, the beneficial result of the medicine. So that was what Srila Prabhupada did to many of us, no?
Right. But we had our arm extended, to use your example. We had our arm extended. You cannot, if Prabhupada's standing there with the injection and you don't have your arm extended, how are you going to receive it? So it's always those two things, right? And so you say you weren't looking for spiritual life, but part of you definitely was, because you've been, clearly, Nanda, of all people, you have done this before, my darling. This is so natural, and this is, we're coming to the end of our sojourn because of Srila Prabhupada.
I think you heard of a lecture the other day. You were telling me the dry wood and the match.
Prabhupada said, there was a question and answer section, and the devotee asked Prabhupada, how come some people take the devotional service really quickly and
Same
others
question.
hear about it and don't take? And Prabhupada gave that example about the dry wood. It's just like the dry wood. Dry wood ignites very quickly
Right.
when presented with the fire, and yet a wood that's moist, it's harder. But then he said, but our problem is what our wood is dry, and then we go pour water on it again.
That's what it was.
Oh.
Right. Wet, dry, wet, dry,
Wet, dry, wet, dry.
Sounds like the stool example. Hare Krishna. Thank you. All right, that's beautiful. Should we go on?
Yep.
Okay, Thakur, would you like to read?
Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So I missed you on Tuesday. We had weather was bad. So
Oh, right. Big
Well,
storm.
I'm sorry. There
Yes.
probably was no electricity. Huh?
no, the weather was so bad, and I was out of the house.
Oh,
Yes.
dear. Okay, I'm glad you're safe now. Now,
Yeah. Okay.
Jai.
So here's a description of devotional service that we should start.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a general description of devotional service given by Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be divided into three categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of God. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami proposes to describe devotional service in practice.
One second, Murari. Just so that you'll see it when we get down to Vishwanath Chakrabarti's comments. The three
Yes.
are devotional service in practice. This is called sadhana. Sadhana
Okay.
means to practice. Devotional service in ecstasy means bhava bhakti. Means one's in ecstasy while performing it. And devotional service in pure love of God is prema bhakti. So sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing the conclusions of of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, it works very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is a natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men, like the Aborigines, offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law, and they appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibition of or action there is something supreme. So this consciousness, though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity. And when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness.
There you go. Anything you'd like to say about that, Murari?
Yes, we've commented our attraction for the chant of the holy name, and why some persons have been in the movement for many years despite the challenges, is this idea that, well, we must have had some connection to previous lives. So I just want to make a point on that.
Yeah, good example. One who was very attracted to chanting, either in kirtan or japa, must have had some attraction there because it's eternal. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
can I just?
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
also, as you were pointed out, those devotional service in those three different forms, sadhana bhakti, what's the other one?
Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti.
Bhava bhakti and prema. So there is practice, there's love, and there's love, and there's spontaneous love. So yeah, I hope I got it right. So sadhana and prema. Okay.
Good. So those are things we want to strive for, right? Go on, Pati.
We'll read more about those three categories in the next section down, where there's an explanation by Viswanath to make it more clear. One thing that several people weren't here last meeting, this is an important point. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that, let me pull it up because it's pretty essential and important. This practice is not something for developing something. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, service to the Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living entity. Anybody that was here Tuesday night can tell me the name of that Sanskrit word, which means that. Madan, although you weren't, were you here?
I wasn't there on Tuesday, but I was just thinking how Prabhupada, when he made that recording, he says, not an artificial imposition on the mind.
Good.
So how that would fit. And then Nityasiddha Krishna Prem, that it's not something to be gained externally. It's already lying there dormant. And that part and parcel, we have all the qualities of Krishna in small quantity, and by the process of devotional service, those qualities come out again. So I just thought that would fit in there with it's not an artificial. The same word was used when it's not an artificial imposition on the mind.
Right.
Maybe you could say just a couple things on that.
Certainly. It's just like the example, we studied it quite in depth on Tuesday night. It's called Sthai Bhava. And there was a lecture by Srila Prabhupada talking about Siddha, what was the name? Swarup Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi is the term he used. There's also Siddha Deha and so many other, but Swarup Siddhi means that every living entity, as an expansion. You just mentioned it, Mamaivam sa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, every living entity, whether a Vishnu Tattva or a Shakti Tattva or a Jiva Tattva, is an expansion from the Supreme Lord, a fragmented part. So inherent within each part is a particular nature and character. So this example of the walking, it's not that the parents or who's ever teaching the child to walk instills them, like Nanda was saying, he injects something. He actually gives them instructions by which and the practice by which that which is natural for them awakens and comes out, just like the seed, when it's put into the ground, begins to germinate. And whatever potential that particular seed has, might be a mango, might be a tomato, might be a pine cone, a pine tree, that which is in the seed will naturally come out. So similarly, this practice that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving to the living entities through chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra awakens love for Krishna. That's the Yuga Dharma under his guidance. So very similar to what Madan just said, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhyaka Bhanoi. It doesn't come from somewhere else. It's the practice awakens what's naturally already there.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Madam, why don't you continue? Why don't you read this next section? It's not so long.
Okay. There are certain prescribed methods prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked, as much as a child with a little practice can begin to walk. On one who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause the dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti.
Oh, that's interesting. So Prabhupada says that it's not simply by practice, but there's something essential that has to be accepted. You can put it back, Pachi, to the... You want to speak about that, Madan?
Well, we just did a moment before that.
Yeah.
Because our constitutional position, our original constitutional position is to be servant of Krishna. We just forgot we have like spiritual amnesia. So by doing this, our memory's going to come back how this is our natural position. And it just, by direct experience, what's that, 9-2, Rajavichu Rajaguyam. So it's the king. You get the direct experience of self-realization by practicing it. And I think wasn't that the question originally asked to Ramananda Roy? What is the sadhana that delivers the sadhya of being a lover of Krishna? I think that was what Lord Chaitanya originally asked Ramananda Roy to speak on. Is that right?
What is the goal of life and how to attain it?
Yeah, right. And I think that I'm not really good with Sanskrit, but I thought that sadhana means the way to obtain it. And
Sadhya.
Yeah, the
Sadhya is the goal. One question here that you remember in Nectar of Instruction, Niyamagraha, following rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. How does that apply to this part? Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. Well, he just said up here that the whole chapter is called sadhana bhakti, devotional service and bhakti in practice. So what is the difference? Why that sounds contradictory? Why isn't it contradictory?
Is that anyone a question, or was that to me? Because
Anyone,
I read.
sure.
Anyone a question?
But do you have an,
I think it had to do with he's saying how it's natural as far as your walking capacity is already there, and yeah, I stuttered a little when I read that sentence. I went back to see if it said can be or cannot be. So when I read that,
which one?
um, when you had it up there, it says it cannot be.
Cannot be.
Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. So
Oh,
when I read that,
I see.
I read it again before I went on to the next thing, thinking that maybe I made a mistake in
Actually, there's
reading
no such practice.
What does that
it.
mean,
Yeah,
Sal?
right.
No matter, put it back to the words, please. No matter what we do, it's not a practice, it's a natural constitutional position. The next sentence, when we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant, means it's already there, but it's asleep, capacity to be invoked.
So that's like that. That's like the patient putting their arm out for the doctor. You gave the example. In other words, the submissiveness to the order, and then the willingness to accept and execute the order. Then the practice given by the spiritual master will awaken that natural love.
But Truva, you had mentioned a very nice word, the niyamagraha, that there's something else besides the practice. That element of bhakti has to be there. That if you do it, the practice, but you don't have the goal in mind, you don't have your heart involved, just the practice on itself
Doesn't
wouldn't
do
do it. Yeah, that was a very nice point.
Yeah, that could be, you could see that through that. It's not just the practice. It's not just the practice. That's very profound, worthy of our contemplation.
I think Tisha has her hand up.
Tisha ji, my darling, what would you like?
Hare Krishna.
Bravo.
I just don't understand the part where it says actually there is no such practice, because I always kind of took a little bit of solace in knowing that I just have to chant the Maha Mantra, no matter kind of no matter what, just keep chanting. And I thought even if
Okay.
you just heard even if
It's you know what it is? It's not a practice, it's an awakening. It's an awakening. You become awakened when you perform these processes. When you perform this process over and over and over again, you become awake to your eternal self.
I think one of the things that you might relate with is it can't be just mechanical. Yeah, you know, you don't, you just because it's being done doesn't mean it's going to have its effect. But when you give your heart to it, when you give your attention to it, when you do it with care, because ultimately it's the love and devotion that are evoked by that activity, and simultaneously we have to give ourselves to it. It's not just like some people that were that concept from Niyamagraha means to perform an activity simply for the act of performing it. Not
Right.
for the pleasure of Krishna.
And not with your heart, not using your heart there. You could over and over and over and over and over again chanting, and nothing is happening. Lord Chaitanya was asked by a devotee, what's the difference? Two people are chanting. One is making great advancement, and one is standing in the same place. His answer was faith. It's a matter of faith. So if we chant with faith, we start to awaken. If we chant very, ritualistically, without any investment of our own heart in it, there's a difference. There's a difference of what you will achieve.
I mean, I appreciate this because I think this is a huge, little bit of a wake-up call for me about the way that I chant. So I appreciate.
Oh, good little light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Yeah. Because once we start having a taste, how can you taste anything that has nothing to do with love? It's dry, and who needs it? It's love that we're hankering for. And if we chant and develop our love and faith for Krishna, faith in Krishna, then that's a whole different ball game than I'm chanting my 16 rounds, or I'm chanting and I'm doing this. But you're not giving your heart. So, Hare Krishna. Oh, we got some questions here. Okay, Takor and then Madan. Thank you, Tisha.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So is the idea is there is that it is mantra 3 in the nectar of instruction.
Mhm.
There was enthusiasm, confidence, patience, and engaging in those activities.
Confidence, yeah.
Yes, and following the example of the acharyas and move away from those persons that will not allow you to practice your devotional service. So could you say that could be part of it too?
Certainly.
All right.
That's also based on faith.
Yes,
how
sir.
can you have confidence in something that you don't have faith in? It's contradictory, right?
Well, yes. So we understand that faith, well, not just faith, but it goes right through. Because you start
Right,
with faith,
it
but
gives
you're
rise.
throughout different processes. Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
the whole foundation is who are you going to have faith in?
Right.
Faith, it's not empty. You have to have faith in the qualified person who's delivering the absolute real message, isn't it, Patsy? You have
Yep,
to have,
definitely.
you have to have faith in the person that has to be qualified. Just like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, one can what's that verse about the spiritual master? Because he has seen the truth. So you have to recognize that person who has seen the truth and then have faith in him and hear from him.
So one should approach a spiritual master,
Spiritual master.
inquire from him submissively, and
Submissively,
render
right.
service unto him. So the point,
has seen the truth, so he can
let's put it
deliver it.
into this kind of a package. As you're performing the activities, you should feel some inspiration from them. The more that happens, the more you're willing to follow. I heard a devotee give a nice interview, and he was telling the interviewer an example. He said, "We're both from New York City, and if I want, or one person's from New York City and another person's not, and they want to go to the library, so they ask him on the street, where do I go to find the library?" And the person said, "Okay, you go straight down this road until you come to Woolworths. When you see that, you take a right. Then when you see, the gas station, you take a left. And then you'll start to see," and he explains what you'll see as you go down and follow these instructions. So the person starts walking down the street, a little bit faithful, but then he sees Woolworths and he takes a right. And he says, "Oh, okay, now I'm getting there." And he goes further, and then he sees the gas station, and then he gets more faith. So he's getting more confidence as he progresses, because he's seeing exactly what that person said he should see and experience.
Because he heard from the right person. Nanda just brought up a point also. Nanda, say that what you said, what you wrote. Very good point.
Okay, I said that don't forget that faith doesn't start off pure and strong, which is just what Dhruva Prabhu is saying right now, which is the second part of my text there. I just put that in now. That it by doing the practices, the faith grows, which is exactly the example that Dhruva gave.
Yeah.
So because
Very well.
otherwise sometimes it sounds discouraging. Oh no. But no, we all start off with small, weak faith, and faith grows, and that's how, anyway, Hare Krishna, thank you.
Yeah.
Don, you want to say something?
Well, during initiation lectures with Prabhupada, he almost always discussed one other point. You have the positive, but then there was also, I think it's Adi 1, 8, 6, Adi 8:16. So we used to say that every Saturday morning in
Did you get bumped off? I think he pressed the wrong button on his
Okay,
phone.
you pressed the wrong button. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
We'll get back.
I got it. I just had to change over to a different screen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear you.
If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of chanting. So I think that was also like the Niyamagraha idea, that if you're doing everything, the Sambandha Abhideya, then you're moving along, but sometimes our faith in what's it, anartha nivritti stage, it's difficult to overcome past habits.
And
So
also offenses, like Prabhupada said, the offenses against the holy name. When we're committing offenses, we can't make any progress. That destroys everything. Good.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, well, let's move on. Madhurya Leela, would you like to read?
Sure, thanks.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Now, this sadhana bhakti, or practice of devotional service, can also be divided into two parts. The first part is called regulated principles. One has to follow these different regulated principles by the order of the spiritual master, or on the strength of authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question of refusal. This is called vaidhi, or regulated. One has to do it without any argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulated principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arti, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arti, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous.
Okay, what do you
Explain a
think?
little. Yeah, I'd like to hear her explain a little more about this. Read that again, Madhurya.
About
Although this is
although it is within the category practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, regulative and spontaneous.
why is it considered practice if it's spontaneous?
Well, you still do it, but you do it out of love, not that you're being
But
forced.
are you still practicing? If you're doing
Yeah, it's
something
a
out of
type
love, what's the question of practice?
You know, there's a
I
there's
guess.
a semantic difference here.
I'd
It's
like
just-
her to have a chance
Okay.
to say
Well,
something. Go ahead, Madhurya.
Well, it's a type of practice. I guess when you practice, then you become so accustomed to it that it becomes part of your being. You just do it, and you do it out of love. You become attached to it, and you're not forced. Nobody has to tell you, do this, do that, So
But is it still considered practice? Even though you come to
I
that
think
point?
so. Well,
Um,
it's a kind of practice, I think.
Samapriya, I think this is a good time to bring up your point.
Well, there's two words. There's practice and process. To practice something, a practice can sometimes mean process semantically, and to practice means to endeavor, to work hard, to practice makes perfect. To do something so that you become expert on it. So sometimes I think these two words are becoming confused. Process, Srila Prabhupada said previously that these processes can be performed. One can practice the process. And so I think maybe there's a little confusion between those two words.
Okay, because I know what's coming up and I know how the book is unfolding and what these terms are discussing, I'll shed a little light on it.
Okay.
He was saying earlier that there's two types of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means to practice. One is vaidhi bhakti. You practice by following the rules and regulations. Two is raganuga bhakti, which is a practice specifically following the ragatmika bhaktis. This will be described probably next lesson. Right now, this is the end of this one as far as Bhakti Rasamrita, the concepts that we're studying now. So although it's still spontaneous to some degree, that it's becoming natural and you want to do it, still there is an element of need for more maturity. Again, we go back to the beginning. We read it in the very beginning that there are 3 stages of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. So sadhana bhakti, what's the goal of sadhana bhakti? Bhava bhakti. So although one may have performed and be performing Raganuga sadhana bhakti, it's spontaneous, it's coming natural, still the bhava, the emotions, the maturity, the intensity of those spiritual emotions are not completely awakened, then it's considered practice. Let us go on to the next section, which will describe it further. This is some of the purports to the exact same section we just read.
Okay, Nanda, would you like to read? Nandaji?
Yes, ma'am. Bhakti Rasamrita 1, 2, text 1. There are 3 types of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. And this is from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Someone may say, let there be only 2 types of bhakti, sadhana and sadhya. Bhava should be included in sadhya bhakti. Why is it necessary to have 3 types? The answer is as follows. Later, it will be said, those are called practitioners, sadhakas, who have developed rati for Krishna and are qualified to see Krishna directly, but who have not completely extinguished the anarthas. In spite of the fact that bhava or rati has appeared, the obstacles have not completely dissipated. Such persons are therefore classified as sadhakas, not having extinguished all obstacles. Oh, I'm going to read that again. Not having extinguished all obstacles means that there still remains a trace of some serious aparad, because the effects of aparad are very strong and long-lasting. In this condition, even a trace of aparad, that generates suffering. Sadhya bhakti. Oh, I'm going to do that one again too. In this condition, with even a trace of aparad that generates suffering, sadhya bhakti cannot appear. The qualities of the siddha bhakta who has sadhya bhakti, are described as follows in the same section. Those who experience no suffering at all, who perform all actions while taking shelter of Krishna, and who always taste the happiness of continuous praying, are known as the perfected devotees. Therefore, bhava bhakti cannot be included in sadhya bhakti. However, by no means can it be included in sadhana bhakti, because in this section, which defines sadhana bhakti, the goal of sadhana bhakti is described as bhava bhakti. Therefore, it cannot be included in this section of sadhana bhakti, since the goal of bhava bhakti is not to produce bhava.
What?
It's already reached. The goal of bhava bhakti is not to produce bhava. It's already been reached. So therefore, the goal of sadhana bhakti is to attain bhava.
That. Thus, it should be considered proper to classify bhakti into 3 types, not 2. Sheesh.
Oh, Lord Chaitanya, help us.
That's what I have to say too. Oh, Lord.
Okay. Well, just hearing it, we're getting purified.
That's great.
That is great. Okay. Okay. You want to finish reading that, or
She did. She finished
she
that
did.
section.
I did. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, anything else, Nanda, to shed light on
No, that was very detailed enough.
this? Yeah, it was
I
detailed.
just pray that I get to understand. I mean, I can understand the concept, but when it gets spelled out so clearly, sometimes
Yeah.
my mind goes like,
Yeah.
"Eep."
Okay. Hare Krishna. It's a good thing for the holy name.
Yeah.
Okay. Manvantara, did you want to say something? Thank you, Nandaji.
Yeah, just a quick question. As an example of these two different definitions, the sages at Namaskar who became gopis in Krishna's Leela, does any of this definition applies to them? You know, those gopis that were kind of like newer in the process of I don't know, bhakti?
Well, they were performing Bhava Bhakti. They were the perfected souls. So we're talking about the practice of sadhana. So their practice far excelled, I think, what we're talking about here. Nandaji?
Just a little bit more. Perhaps, Manvantara, perhaps it's like when somebody's quote unquote new, you know, like when somebody reaches perfection in this material life and then gets promoted to the pastimes of Krishna, participate. They get that promotion is still like a practice. They get trained up by the siddha, the ones that are already perfectly, you know, perfectly perfect, you know, and they get trained up how to act and nuances of things. So there's always, I just wanted to add that. So it's not like they just get perfect and blink, all the lights goes on and they get to do everything. No, they get also, you know, continue at practice, but under the guidance of the siddha, whatever those gopis are called, Nitya siddhas. Sorry.
You know,
Thank
also
you.
in the Brihat, it said that Prahlad Maharaj is a new devotee.
Yeah, Prahlad's a new devotee. Yeah, yep,
So
yep. It's
there
true.
you go, back into perspective here.
Put
Hare Krishna.
the time factor, our perception of time factor and practice and how long it's taking, it's
Okay.
quite out of proportion to what's really going.
Everything, it's going to feel natural at one point, right? Hare Krishna. Okay, let's
May
go
I
on.
make a comment?
Oh,
I,
we're
I,
done.
I may
Yeah.
have made too many, so I'm getting a little inhibited to say something. But when it said suffering, suffering generally means there's still attachment to the material body. You know, that's where our suffering comes from. And so just to change the words a little bit, that we can see that we can do the deity worship, but still maintain some bodily conception. That goes away also, you know, in the Madhurya Kandambini, it goes into this point. So
Yeah.
with the gopis that couldn't leave, and then their husbands stopped them, and then they got free from that particular part. That way they could enter completely. I'm sorry.
Let's go back to Manvantara's question. Manvantara, it was the sages. It wasn't the sages at Naimisharanya. It was the sages at Dandakaranya who met Lord Ram. Just for one point, but the other were you asking the question because of that topic that Nanda brought up and Madan just commented on, that there was some element, even though they were gopis, there was still something that they had to undergo that the others didn't?
Yes, yes.
You
Yeah,
can-
and I
you
was
can-
looking for
yeah.
examples, and that I remember that pastime. So I'm looking for
Right.
examples because it helps me with the Sanskrit.
Okay, it's a little bit different. They're no longer sadhana bhaktas. They're sadhana siddhas. They've reached perfection, attained gopi bodies, but there's still some remnant there and some immaturity. And by association with Krishna's Nitya Siddha gopis, as Nanda was pointing out, they overcame those. And finally, that night when Krishna played his flute and they couldn't get out of the house, whatever feelings were intensified by that moment burnt off anything that was perhaps left over. That's the way it was described. But yeah, good point, but not appropriate for these particular topics. Again, we're talking about Bhava Bhakti, Sadhya Bhakti, the Sadhana Bhakti, and the goal of Sadhana Bhakti or practice is Bhava Bhakti. And he was describing that because there's some element of suffering, even in those Bhava Bhaktas, they're not considered Prema Bhaktis or completely purified yet. That's what that last section was about. The qualities of the Siddha Bhakta, who has Sadhya Bhakta, are described as follows in the same section. Those who experience no suffering at all, who perform all actions while taking shelter of Krishna, and who always taste the happiness of continuous prema, are known as the perfected devotees.
Okay, so we could aspire for that.
Sure.
That's what we're aspiring for. And we have the process. We have the process. Okay, Tisha, tell me the process and then read this. What's the process, sweetie?
The process is to chant the Maha Mantra with a feeling
There you go.
Good.
of love and devotion. Thank you.
Yeah,
Now we got the
Yes,
footnote. Small
There
print.
you go. Good, we're getting there. Good girl. All right, why don't you read, sweetie?
Okay. 1.2 text 2. Now sadhana bhakti will be defined. Action of the senses which produces the stage of bhava is called sadhana bhakti. This attained state of bhava bhakti, sadhyata, is an eternal, sthayi bhava, which is not created, but simply manifests within the soul by the spiritual energy of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. When bhakti is accomplished by actions of the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti. The action of the senses is included in bhakti, though the senses are material. This is similar to including the purva karmas of a sacrifice as part of the sacrifice. The intention of including sadhana, executing using the senses in bhakti, is to show that bhakti is produced only by bhakti and not by anything else. Such a purpose is fitting. The phrase sadhya bhava is used in order to distinguish sadhana from bhava bhakti, which has actions such as hearing and chanting, which appear to be the same as the actions of sadhana bhakti, but which are actually different. Sadhya bhava means that by which bhava bhakti is generated. Thus, by mentioning that the result of bhav, other results such as artha, dharma, kama, and moksha are automatically rejected. The word sadhya means produced or achieved. Hence, the phrase sadhya bhav can mean that by which bhav is produced.
Okay, one thing I'm going to tell you here. Sadhya, sadhana and siddhya, and sadhya. Sadhana is the, as we spoke, is the practice. So in chanting the holy name, the holy chanting is the sadhana and it's the sadhya, both, because you're chanting in one way and then it becomes purified. Your chanting becomes purified, and that's the goal. Sadhya is the goal, and the sadhana is how to achieve the goal. And devotional service can be performed in both categories. Even the same service can be performed, one in with sadhana, your daily process, your daily practice, and sadhya, you've achieved the goal, because the goal is still to chant Hare Krishna, but purely. Does that make sense?
So you can watch two people doing the same thing,
Yes.
but there can be completely different. One's
Absolutely.
on a level of just
Right.
still sadhana, and one has purified or something and becomes devotional, I guess.
Developed, more developed.
Developed,
Let's say
yeah.
more developed. And we see that all of us are doing the same thing for so many years, always.
Yes.
So we're engaging in these activities, but because of the practice, and the process, the same activity being performed will be felt in a different way by someone who is more seasoned, let's call it, Or sometimes a person will have gone really high in their last life, and suddenly, because we see these little kids in the temple playing the mridanga, like, what? So, but it's a matter of different stages of devotional service.
It is also external and internal. I think we just read about that the advanced devotee externally maintains his sadhana, but internally he's always absorbed in his
Yeah.
his position with
Right.
Krishna.
Right.
Didn't we
But
read that
Patrick,
recently?
what's that called? Those two things, the internally absorbed and the externally absorbed in this practice. What was that called? It looks like you're looking for it. Pati?
Seva sadhaka. No, I'm not looking for it. What do you
Oh.
mean? It looks like. How
Oh,
can you
Seva
see it?
Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. You wanted to talk about that verse, Pati.
Oh, well, we've talked about it many times. Seva sadhaka rupena means one should perform their seva in their material body. Seva sadhaka as a practitioner in human society. Siddha rupena chatrahi, but internally, he's absorbed in the spiritual body and the spiritual relationship with Krishna. A perfect example are the acharyas. Although they're descending from the spiritual world, taking on a material body, apparently having the material family of mother and father and even children. Bhaktivinoda had children, Prabhupada had children, and engaged in business and so many things. Still, we can understand by their life's activities, by what they're writing and what they showed as they went through life, how totally absorbed in Krishna and loving ecstasy they were while performing those same activities. So, Tisha, your point was perfect when you said two people can be doing the same thing, but they're totally differently absorbed. And I think we all experienced that when we were with Srila Prabhupada, he was not one of us. He was on a whole other level of internal ecstasy and meditation, and manifested in the world to the point where it revealed that about him on the external plane. Look at all the people from so many different countries who are taking to this process because he established a movement which is propagating that. We read every day in the prayers to the spiritual master that from him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. So these features kind of reveal that reality.
Okay. Thank you. Wow. How do we ever get to hear this out of millions of souls? Amazing. Okay.
Past lives, we read that in the beginning.
Past,
of today.
okay, past lives. Okay, thank God for my past life. Hare Krishna. Okay, Faye, why don't you read this? Faye, are you still there? She's coming. I think she's coming.
It's
Faye?
yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Just may give rise to the fear that though Bhava Bhakti has been mentioned as supreme, it may not actually be the supreme goal of human endeavor because it is produced artificially or achieved, i.e., it is not eternal. The answer is given in the second line. This bhava is eternal and merely appears within the heart of the devotee. Bhava also includes hearing, chanting, and other actions. It is not just emotions. These actions of bhava also appear on the tongue or in the ear, but are not created, just as Krishna appears in the house of Vasudeva, but is not produced out of matter. The emotions and actions of bhava are all eternal and spiritual and not material because of their appearance in the future will be accomplished by the extraordinary actions of the most excellent transformations, Samvit and Ladini, of the Lord Swarup Shakti. Thank you.
Whoa, that's the explanation.
Can you
Pati,
give an example in botany of that, Faye? I'm thinking maybe you can explain it a little further. Say a plant grows a flower, The bud comes out and then the flower manifests. So it's saying here that these actions of bhava did not appear in the tongue or in the ear, but are created, but they're not created, just as Krishna appears in the house of Vasudeva. So is the flower created, or was it inside the seed and then it manifests?
Correct. I had a botany teacher that expressed this in a very succinct way. And she described a seed as being a baby plant in a box with its lunch. And all of the seed, the cotyledons, the seed leaves and baby parts, everything is there. A seed is a seed is a seed. But as a practitioner, you can plant all kinds of seeds together, but until they actually germinate, grow a few leaves, start sprouting, and things such as flowers appear, you actually, even as a botanist, don't always know what it's going to be.
Mm, good
So
point.
a mango tree is going to be a mango. It comes from a mango seed. But a hibiscus or a banana tree, they come from seeds too, but they're quite different plants. So I'd like to add on to what my teacher taught me. A plant is a plant is a plant, but they're not always the same.
Mm, nice, thank you.
You're
Perfect.
welcome.
Aye. Sama, you have to unmute.
Okay. Tantamayi, you want to finish up for us today?
Haribol, Danava Pranam, everyone, dear devotees.
Jai, Haribol.
Okay,
So you gave class in New York a little while ago.
I did, and I wish that I had your eloquence. I'm just a beginner in terms of being a lecturer, so it's great to be with experienced devotees who know how to present, and then I can learn. So, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 125. There are two types of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 126. Here is the definition of Vaidhi Bhakti, where the actions of bhakti arise, not from the attainment of rag, but by the teachings of scriptures. It is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Jiva Goswami's commentary. Where the activities of bhakti appear in a person, not from the attainment of rag, but rather by the rules of scripture, that bhakti is called Vaidhi. Raga here means anurag, a taste for bhakti. This will be understood from a later discussion on the difference between ragatmika and raganuga. In this definition, Vaidhi Bhakti is restricted to cases where bhakti is performed exclusively by teachings of scriptures and not with an element of rag. With the attainment of rag, there will also be some use of scriptural teachings as well, but it is not called Vaidhi Bhakti.
That's nice. Explain that.
The Vaidhi Bhakti is following verbatim and staying on the road, staying on course according to the map that is given to us by the previous acharyas. And we walk the walk, conscious and restricting ourselves to what is concrete in front of us. Whereas Raganuga Bhakti takes on a different life, a different attitude, and hard to explain because I haven't been there yet. But I do know that my teacher has explained that we follow Vaidhi Bhakti, but we have the goal of being in Raganuga. We understand that we're not always going to be following this GPS so closely. as we go forward.
Oh, good. That's a good one. That's a good one. This is just what Tisha was talking about, what we were talking about in that conversation. You could do the same thing that you're doing now, but you have a deeper feeling. You're actually developing love for Krishna. And your reason for acting is even following the rules. Your reason for doing that, you're propelled by love.
Now,
Propelled by love.
take that same concept and read this last sentence, Sama.
Okay. With the attainment of Rag, there will also be some use of scriptural teachings as well, but it's not called Vaidhi. And why isn't it called Vaidhi, Tisha? You gave the example yourself. Why isn't it called Vaidhi? How are we chanting now? How are we chanting now?
Like with attention and devotion
And love.
and love.
So therefore, I would differ with Chatamai's statement. She says, "I'm not there yet." What this indicates is that when as soon as there's some even slight maturity from simply following because of the rules and regulations of the scripture to an inkling of liking and wanting to do something out of love and devotion. He's describing right here. He said this is no longer Vaidhi, right? With the pardon?
That's the delineation.
Yes, with the attainment of raga. Doesn't say how much. Then there will be some, he said there will also be use of the scriptural teachings, so you're still following. But it is not called Vaidhi Bhakti anymore.
So that's you didn't say, you said it doesn't say how much, but it's proportionate.
Proportionate.
Ye
very good.
yatamam
Yes.
prapadyante. As they
Perfect.
surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So it's proportionate. The more inclined we are to serve Krishna, to do everything in our life, no matter what it is, for him, the more we're inclined like that, then we're developing this raga bhakti, spontaneous love for Krishna. And of course, Vaidhi Bhakti is very important because how would we know what to attain without that? It blends into another mode, into another feeling, and into a motivation, motivated through love rather than this is duty. I did a whole thing on the difference between duty and love. Duty has to progress until love, but you can't develop love without duty first, and that's Vaidhi.
Right. One is founded by the other, but they each have a different kind of fuel.
Nice. Yes.
Right. Good.
Before we move on now to which will be on Tuesday, we'll have the next Zoom. Notice how this is 126. We're right at the very beginning of Sadhana Bhakti. That was the name of the chapter. It's called Sadhana Bhakti, Devotional Service and Practice, Chapter 2. Okay? Texts 1 through 6 is what we followed now. And what's being described as the two different sections, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga. From text 6 up to 228, Vaidhi Bhakti will be further described. The rules, the regulations, the deity worship, all those different 64 items of devotional service up to text 227. In the next installment, we will skip ahead in the same chapter to descriptions of Raganuga Bhakti, because up to that point were further details covering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So for Tuesday's lesson, the lesson that will be posted tomorrow, we'll start with Raganuga, because we're studying the rasa dance, and that's the appropriate topic from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu for that type of love.
Okay. Also, Sudha Sindhu, my darling Sudha Sindhu, I'm so sorry that we weren't able to hear you read, but I would like to, we'll definitely start next time with you, but I wanted to ask you if you had anything to add to this or anything you'd like to share or any questions. Sudha Sindhu, my darling.
No question. Just good. Yeah.
Okay, you're okay.
Haribol, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I know it was an endeavor. You're in Malaysia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the time
Yeah, there's a time
difference.
between.
So what time is it there now?
12:16 a.m.
Wow.
Oh, in the mornings, yeah, and that's real. That's called,
Midnight.
that is endeavor. That is a desire to hear. Thank you so much for joining. And next time we'll start with you. And if you have anything to add or ask, please note it down so that you can bring it up next time. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Manvintar's got her hand up.
Oh, Mamatarji.
Yes, regarding the Bhakti Rasamitra Sindhu, it is not in the Veda base
Yeah.
for like copying and pasting, like certain texts for writing. And
It's not?
No,
no,
Oh.
it's not in the
it's Bhanu Swami's book.
right. I have the book itself, but I was
Right.
just trying to ease and facilitate the copying and pasting
Oh.
for writing.
Mhm.
And I was but there's no other way to do it, I guess is my question, other
There is-
than on
there
the
is, but-
forum.
There is, but you'd have to buy the book. The Kindle version is the one I have. Therefore, I
Gotcha.
can
Okay.
copy and paste that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. That
All
sounds
right.
like a good solution.
Okay. Thanks.
So I thank you, everyone.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we're good.
The board, before
Oh.
go,
Yes,
what is sign? Bhakti is Bhakti.
good quote.
Get Bhakti from Bhakti.
Bhakti is
Yeah.
bhakti,
Bhakti
But
is
that's-
bhakti.
but it's
Okay.
a wide categories. We have to love Krishna.
Love is love.
Yes,
Love is
right.
love. Love is
good.
love.
Well,
Good,
good
very
week.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Vanchakapatubhishta,
Yeah.
Kripasindhubhivata,
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Hare Krishna. Glories to Prabhupada.